Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Wednesday, August 5th. This is your daily Buckeye Fix. I'm Tom Orr. Today is exactly 1 month from the scheduled start of the 2020 Ohio State football season. There's only one problem. We still don't have the Big Ten's updated schedule. That was supposed to come out on Tuesday, but didn't. Now there are reports that it could come out today, but as with everything these days, that may be subject to change. One thing that did change yesterday was that we got to talk to the 2020 Ohio State captains, and also, hey, there are 2020 Ohio State captains now. Buckeye Scoop lead beat writer Tony Gerdeman joins me. Tony, we got an hour with Ryan Day and 7 different players. We have not talked to anyone since May. There was a whole lot to talk about, but I guess let's start with the captains. Who are going to be the captains for the 2020 Ohio State football team?
Yeah, there are 3 from offense and 4 from defense for the Buckeyes. Offensively, it's Justin Fields, Wyatt Davis, and Josh Myers. And then defensively, it's Jonathan Cooper, Tuff Borland, Justin Hilliard, and Sean Wade. So the 7 of them not out of line with what Urban Meyer has done in the past. I think we kind of expected around this many, and none of these names come as a surprise or a shock. Maybe a pleasant surprise would be Justin Hilliard, the 6th-year linebacker out of Cincinnati, just because of how much he's been through at Ohio State with losing his first 2 years to injury and being a backup for 2 years after that, and then last year missing the spring with an Achilles injury, and then still coming back to be a versatile member of the defense and special teams last year. Started 3 games, doing a lot, playing as a 4th linebacker for the Ohio State defense. So it was good to see Justin Hilliard get that nod from his teammates.
Yeah, he is someone who has just kind of done everything kind of consistently right through his whole career and gone through an awful lot to get to where he is right now. So yeah, he's definitely someone who I think you would feel pretty good that he has been recognized by his teammates to get to that level. Another guy who was like that last year was CJ Saunders. Saunders was a former walk-on, ended up earning a scholarship, and then was voted a captain in 2019, and then did not actually get to play at all as a captain in 2019 because of a leg injury that cost him the entire season. The Buckeyes had appealed to the NCAA to give him a 6th season, and Ryan Day told us on Tuesday he did not get it, which is really a shame for CJ Saunders, but he's someone who, overcame an awful lot, is not the prototypical Ohio State football player, but, to work your way up to be a captain, it was not a real big surprise then when Ryan Day told us that he still wants CJ Saunders around his program. So it sounded like Ryan Day's looking at maybe keeping him on as in some kind of a staff role. Is that right?
Yeah, and there'll be a number of different things that they can do with him. He's an experienced guy. Began his career at cornerback, so maybe Kerry Combs grabs him instead of Brian Hartline. But just a guy that everybody respects. And when you have that, just to have another example of how to do things the right way and to hold others accountable, he'll be able to do that. As you said, voted a captain last year, and certainly has the respect of his teammates. And so when you have a guy like that, even though he's not playing, if he's giving you advice or watching you or telling you to do something, it's not like you take it the wrong way because you're taking it from a guy who has been there, who has done it. I mean, that's one of the things the receivers always talk about with Brian Hartline, is that this is a guy who has done it all and did it in the NFL. So when he tells you something, there comes a certain amount of respect and just acknowledgement that these aren't just empty words. And to have a former captain continue to stay on the staff in some way, I think that's a nod to the not just to CJ Saunders, but to the program and the culture, and where even though you can't have the guy in the field, you still want him in the building. So that says a lot about CJ Saunders for sure.
Captains, the idea with captains is these are guys you want out there representing you. These are the guys you could trust to always do the right things and say the right things. And, so it was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, we talked to these guys for an hour and there was a lot of, yep, that's what I would expect them to say. There was one thing that kind of jumped out to me on Tuesday. People were asked about the Michigan game and, would it be weird if the Michigan game gets moved up to September or October? And, would that be weird as much as you guys, cherish all the traditions around that game and having it be the last game of the season? and you sort of got the expected answer for a while, and we'll play them whenever, and it doesn't really matter as long as we get to play them. But then both Justin Fields and Wyatt Davis used the exact same expression when it came to the Michigan game, and that was one where normally you're kind of taking notes or whatever, and I literally stopped and I was like, whoa, that's not what they normally say about this. So what did Justin Fields and Wyatt Davis have to say about the Michigan game, Tony?
Well, they mentioned that they're looking forward to the game, and then throwing in the fact, something about beating the brakes off of Michigan. And the first time it was said, I think Justin Fields said it the first time, and there's kind of some muffling as he was saying it. So you couldn't really, did he just say that? And then a little while later, Wyatt Davis said the same thing. And you're like, yeah, Justin, they both said it. And it's certainly, this rivalry has its history of guys being brash and outspoken, but every single year, coaches are telling players, don't say anything you don't need to say. Now, does Ryan Day need to tell his players on August 4th, hey, don't go out and say anything bad about Michigan? Probably not, because who expects anybody to throw something out there like that? But it gives you an insight into the mindset right now of the team, and it's a reflection of the head coach as well. This is the mentality they have right now, that it's not just wanting to win, it's wanting to win a certain way, and wanting to, inflict some things on the Michigan football team. And there's refreshingness to it. There is now you've got to back it up. But Tom, in an era where we're all living in what 2020 has been, this was great to have players come out and say things like this, just to be honest and to go with what kind of just their emotional take on a thing, and to tell us what they want. And I wonder if it's because they've been cooped up for so long that now they're kind of free and camp is starting, and you've got this rejuvenation, and maybe sometimes things just kind of slip.
Well, and summer is a time of optimism, and I think there was a lot of optimism from a lot of those guys during the course of that call. And there's also, it's a little easier to say that when you have been beating the brakes off of Michigan with some regularity recently. That's I'm sure that's not necessarily something that Ryan Day would have put in their talking points to go out there and say, but that's it has been said now. So now the question is, will they be able to go out and back it up and be the Jim Harbaugh as a player who guaranteed victory and backed it up, or is this going to be a revenge tour that ends with the sad trombone? So that's something that hopefully we'll get the chance to find out one way or the other this fall if there is a game. But it sounded like, from what all those guys were saying, if there is a season, if there is a game, they're all going to be there. There were Minnesota wide receiver Rashad Bateman announced on Tuesday morning that he was opting out of the season. He's someone who is a top first, second round kind of draft prospect for 2021. He decided he was just going to opt out for the season. So very naturally, guys got asked, guys like Shaun Wade, guys like Justin Fields, these are all guys who are probably going to be first round kind of NFL picks in a year. They were all asked, so are you thinking about opting out like he did? And it sounded very much like the answer was a loud and unanimous no.
Yeah, I believe Justin Fields and Shaun Wade were the two players asked directly, and they both said no, that they weren't thinking about opting out. They're too busy opting in right now, working and just preparing for the season. And but then I'm reminded of when players started sitting out bowl games, and how Ohio State players were saying that would never happen here. And then 2 days later, Denzel Ward opted out of a bowl game. So I think every day you're kind of expecting some new player to opt out nationally. And with as many NFL prospects as Ohio State has, would it be a surprise if one of them or two of them or three of them decided to opt out? I don't think it would be. But today was an opportunity for the top two draft prospects on Ohio State's roster, and three, if you want to include Wyatt Davis, to all say, no, the focus is on playing, and there is no focus on opting out. So I think that's good for Buckeye fans. It's good for the Buckeyes that you have a team that is focused on playing. And I wonder how much that has to do with also the fact that they all talked immensely about how safe they feel at Ohio State with all of the precautions and the protocols taking place. That they couldn't say enough about what Ohio State, what the coaches, what the staff, what everybody was doing to keep the players safe. And maybe that also has to do with why there are no thoughts of opting out. Like, it would be one thing if they're Justin Fields or Sean Wade or Wyatt Davis was seeing stuff in Ohio State's facilities, and they're like, you know what, I don't feel great about that. I might want to. It might be better if I just don't play this year. They're not seeing any of that. They're just seeing stuff that is giving them confidence and giving them surety that they are going to be safe and be able to play, and that playing is the better option of the two.
Yeah, I mean, the overall theme from all of those guys was basically Ohio State's doing everything they possibly can. We feel very comfortable here. We just hope everyone else is doing, taking the same steps and being as careful as Ohio State is, and doing all of the things that Ohio State players and coaches and staffers are. And, that's a difficult thing to assume. I mean, you have an outbreak right now at Rutgers, and so there's been stuff at Michigan State. I mean, there are certain, you're going to have a case or two here or there, but yeah, when there's a widespread outbreak like there was at Rutgers, that's probably something that's a little bit of a cause for concern. But as those guys said, they are probably, with the way as seriously as Ohio State is taking this, they are probably safer within the bubble of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and within their team, and trusting the other guys on the team to do the right thing and not be going out to bars and that kind of stuff. That you might be safer as an Ohio State football player on campus at Ohio State than you are just about anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, think wherever you go, do you expect the rooms you're in to be wiped down 4, 5, 6 times a day, and all of the equipment there? Like, you go to a grocery store now, you hope the carts have been wiped down, but not everything has, and that's I don't think that's the case in Ohio State's facilities. They wipe everything down because the players see it going on as well, and the coaches hold them accountable, and the captains hold the younger guys accountable in terms of taking this seriously and not costing the team the season, basically. I mean, imagine being a freshman coming in. You're not really going to play. You're not going to be a positive impact for the team's success in terms of winning games, but you could be a negative impact and cause the team to lose games by picking up the illness somewhere, and then by doing something you shouldn't be doing, and then bringing it back. And now you could have a freshman go ahead and get Justin Fields sick or get whomever sick, and now the team has to forfeit or whatever. And so, like, any player could be that person, and so the focus is on making sure like that's not going to be you. As I think it was Justin Hilliard said, that we can control the coronavirus within the team in terms of limiting their exposure to it. Obviously, you can't control it 100%, but you can do your part to help yourself, and that's what their focus is. And if they see a player who isn't doing that, they hold them accountable, and they make sure they start doing things the right way.
Well, and based on that, I mean, that whole conversation you just had, it seems like I was a little bit surprised. And, these guys are seniors or upperclassmen and they're captains, so they have, potentially some NFL stuff on the line here this season. But I was maybe a little bit surprised at exactly how comfortable they all seemed about the idea of playing this fall. It was very much, no one was like, well, I'm still kind of thinking. It was just like, nope, let's go.
Yeah, and it was the same thing they've been saying for when we talked to Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis a couple months ago, and it hasn't changed. And in fact, I think it's just gotten the fire's there even more, and it goes back to the amount of confidence they have in Ohio State and the transparency and As we mentioned before, the parents have all been involved in all of this, and there's just a really high level of confidence that Ohio State is doing everything they can to keep the players safe in an environment where, we all know what's going on, and that's why they're working so hard to make their own building safe. And if they go into a game clean, then you hope that everybody else is doing the same thing they're doing, and you leave the game clean, and then you move on to the next week.
Well, we are, as I said off the top, we are still waiting on that Big Ten schedule to get released. That Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren is still apparently weighing some options on things. So hopefully that comes out sometime today or later this week. We will, as soon as it does, we will have a whole bunch of coverage of that and what it means for the Buckeyes and what it could mean for the national championship picture at BuckeyeScoop.com. If you are a member there, you probably got one of the most incredible nuggets that Nevada Buck has ever had on our Ask the Insiders board on Tuesday. If you have any issue getting excited for a 2020 college football season, that one should probably solve that for you. So if you are, whether you're a member or not, should check out BuckeyeScoop.com. We will have all sorts of coverage about the press conference from Tuesday, the announcement of the captains. We will be talking to Ryan Day on Thursday and have a whole bunch of new information from him then. And then as soon as that Big Ten schedule drops, we'll have complete coverage of what it means for the Buckeyes and the rest of the league. That's all at BuckeyeScoop.com. And Tony and I dropped a new episode of Buckeye Weekly yesterday. We'll have another one today to talk all about all of this week's news. But, yes, it is Buckeye Weekly. We're going way above and beyond this week because there's actually a whole ton of new information to share with you guys. So those shows and much of our coverage is all free and outside the paywall. So check out Buckeye Scoop. If you like what you see, please consider becoming a member. You'll have access to a lot more incredible content inside that members section, as well as regular staff chats, insight and analysis you just can't find anywhere else. That is all at BuckeyeScoop.com. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.